after 5 to 10 minutes. After wheels start. Seems that we what time do they lock the doors?
Yeah, so the custodian is leaving at 8 tonight, so he's going to try to condense an hour and a half to like 45, 50 minutes. If we let him keep going, it'll probably go faster. Questions at the end. If you grab the agenda, this is all basically reminders, and we can get all of it in next month. Nothing big, nothing new at least. Trunk or treat is tomorrow. That's the only thing I'd add. And then one quick question. Does anybody have any objection on last name?
Yeah, I treat okay. Yeah.
Okay, so that being said, if there's no objections, send more properties and we can try to relay the message to the land bank. Other than that, like I said, he's going to try to get this in. There's an elections rundown sheet. There's only 4 races and then issue 8. So if you're interested in that, just grab one, more at ToledoVotes.com. And then that should be all. I will try to catch everybody at the door. Try to explain to them what's happening. Feel free to take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. You might have to remember me, some of you.
Yeah.
Yes. I used to be the community service officer for this area. Well, I'm a community service officer for another part of town, but I also do a lot of these presentations now, which takes up a lot of my time. So, a little bit about myself, 22 years with the Toledo Police Department, about 6 years or so with community services. Before that, I worked out of Davis Bessie for 9 years, and during that 9 years, I was with the Marine Corps Reserve. So, that's me in a nutshell, I guess. So I went up to Michigan, was trained with this. Civilian response to active shooter events. Civilians, who is that?
Oh,
That's you? Yeah. Absolutely. So their thing is avoid, deny, defend. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to speed through this and give you the condensed version. You all know what ALICE is, right?
Yeah.
This is what we do in the schools. I'm also trained in ALICE. ALICE is alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. Doesn't necessarily have to go in that order. Don't get caught up into that. If the first choice you have and you can do it, you want to get out. You're evacuating. Okay? Most of our schools have PA systems, right? So what are they doing? They're alerting everybody that there's an active shooter in the building. Okay? If there's an active shooter in the building, they're not putting out codes over the PA system. They're actually saying, we have an active shooter in the building. How are you? I see you get it. Then they can go into lockdown. If that's what they need to do. All right? What do you think the inform part is? Works hand in hand with the alert part. So, if they're in a position where they can get across the PA and let everybody know the shooter's in the gymnasium, heading down B hall, heading for the cafeteria, what does that do for everybody else in the building? If you're way away from the shooter.
That's no good idea.
Yeah. You need to be thinking about your options. Well, the shooter's way over there. Can I evacuate? If you can, that's what you're doing. Okay. If you can't evacuate, the shooters are outside the hall. What are we going to do?
We're going to lock down.
We're going to lock down and barricade, right?
Yep.
We're going to shut this door, turn off the lights, and we're going to get away from the door in hopes that the shooter just bypasses us. If we can barricade this door, we're doing that. Okay? What do you think that part is?
Fight.
You're fighting for your life. Now you have to counter. They breached your door. They're coming in. Are you going to cower under a table and just give up? What's in this room that can help you survive an active shooter event?
Chairs.
Everything, anything, whatever you have. That's what you can do. What about your voice? Could that also help? Scream as loud as you can and start throwing stuff. And then you don't stop there. Okay? You might have to all pile drive. Separate the shooter from that gun. Okay? So that's what ALICE is. You ever heard of this one? Run, hide, fight. Homeland Security's version. Same concept. Same concept. If you can get out, you're getting out, you're running. If you can't get out, you're hiding, barricading yourself in a place. If your barricade is breached, You're fighting for your life. That's what that is. You see all three of them, they're all the same. All right, some of this presentation might be disturbing to some people. There's a lot of folks out there that have post-traumatic stress. They've been through some of this. I've done presentations where people have approached me and said, yes, I was involved in an active shooter event. During the presentation, they've gotten up and maybe left because they just can't handle it emotionally, which is fine. If you feel that it's just too much for you, there's no shame in walking out. It's okay. You know what to do with this, right? All our lives we've been trained and prepared to deal with these. What about this?
Construction when it was destroyed by a fire that broke out around 1:30.
What about this? An active shooter comes into your location.
We are now, but.
Do we know what to do?
That way.
Do we know what to do? Have you been trained to do what you need to do? Do you know what the sound of a gun? Do you know that sound?
But there's so many different types of sounds.
What gunfire is? And depending on the building and where you're located, it could sound. So they interviewed a lot of folks who have been involved in these shootings, particular school teachers, of staff, and students. And a lot of them say, I just saw these firecrackers. So many of them saw these firecrackers. That's why you need to know what that sounds like, so you know the difference. Definitions, 3 different definitions. Mass casualty shootings, there's 3 of them right there. Why do you think they might use mass killings? Is the gun the only thing that can be used to kill people? What about a vehicle? What about knives? What about explosives? That's why they use mass killings. The FBI uses the term active shooter. In all these statistics, 3 or more people have to be murdered, innocent people, to make the statistics 3 or more. So if 2 or less, you're never going to see that in the statistics. Active shooter incidents are on the rise, with 2017 topping all years since 2000. There were 30 active shootings in 2017, 20 in 2016. The only year they came close to topping 2017 was 2010 with 26 incidents. All 50 shooters in 16 and 17 were men. The FBI's previous report, which examined 2014 and 15, 42 shooters, 3 of them were women. Yeah, women do this too. Attacks in 2016 and 17 were stopped in a variety of ways. 13 of them committed suicide. 11 were killed by police. 18 were taken into custody by officers. 8 were stopped by who? Who is that? That's you. Absolutely. We're not seeing so much of this anymore. Suicide? Why? They go to jail. They're famous now. That's why I will not name any of these shooters. People are writing them letters, love letters, and letters of encouragement. And you will not believe the fan mail that the shooters are getting while they're in jail. We caught 2 terrorists here locally. I don't know if you remember a few months back. 2 separate. They weren't together. They were separate. A lot of people think they were together, but they were separate incidences. We caught them because they were sending letters to these shooters. Number of mass shootings in the United States between 82 and November of 2018 by gender. No secret. Most of these shootings are men. Males. Okay? No secret. Most of them are white. White males. Legality of the weapon. Look at that. Most of these weapons are legally obtained. They're in the home legally. Prior signs of mental health issues. Prior signs. Look at that. These are people that other people said, hey, Yeah, that person,
Something's wrong with it.
you gotta watch out for that person. He's got some problems. Okay? And obviously, 100%, in my opinion, have mental health issues after they do what they do. Who in the right mind would ever do something like that? The United States as a whole. These are the shootings. This is current. From 82 to September of 2019. 20 in California, 11 in Texas, 11 in Florida, 5 in Pennsylvania, 6 in Colorado, 4 in Ohio. This is this year alone, active shooter events. Yellow is 2018. Greenish, 2017. Look here. These are the venues. Workplace, 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 religious, workplace, school. All kinds of places. That's why I like to do the civilian response to active shooter events. It's just not happening in the schools, it's happening everywhere. Here's some more. And more. And more. And more. Since 1982. These are the statistics, remember? 3 or more innocent victims shot and killed. Here's the world. Remember the Norway incident? There's a documentary movie on Netflix. It's called 22 July. The shooter went downtown, set off an explosion. Remember explosives? Got all the first responders downtown. He gets in a vehicle, goes to a dock. Gets on a boat, goes to an island where they're having summer camp for kids. He murdered 77 people that day. You can see the underlined USA. Way, 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 way too many. 1 is too many. Okay? Shooters don't discriminate on the locations of their attack. For the most part, they do not discriminate. Could it happen here? We've had shootings in the parking lot. Gang rivals shooting at each other. We know it can happen here, right? Colorado? Are you going into the theaters and are you looking for exits when you get there? I think now, I don't go to movies that often, but I think now they tell you to. They point out, kind of like in the airplane, they point out the exits. They tell you to look for them. Are you playing the what if game? If this was to happen here today, what would I do? When you're sitting in your chair or when you're deciding to pick where you're going to sit. Play those games. Play the what if game. What about here? Museum? We had a shooting in the parking lot in the rear. Kid was selling a game system to another kid. The other kid came with fake money. They both drew down on each other. The kid buying it with fake money shot and killed the kid selling the game system. The kid selling it was with his sister. If you were in that parking lot, would you know what to do? If you're standing outside and you're walking in to go into the museum and people are shooting at each other, you know what to do. What's the safest part of your vehicle? The engine block ready? Would the trunk be the safest?
No.
Would you hide behind your trunk? What's in the trunk?
No.
Nothing. Air, right? The way they make cars now.
I know.
Really thin sheet metal. Don't hide behind your trunk. Hide behind the engine, the front of your vehicle. But that's where your engine is. It's the safest part.
But can't they blow it up? Something hit the gas line? No.
Chances, no. Chances of that ever happening. Only in the movies, usually. But the wheel, where the tire is, that also could stop bullets. You're thinking, what is going to be the safest place that I need to duck? And those are good places to duck. Not behind the trunk. Could happen in church.
Yes.
All kinds of reasons why it would happen here. Hate crimes, terrorism, domestics, mental health. This happens to be the church I attend. Our pastor has been threatened by one person in particular a few times. He's got mental health problems. We have a security detail at this church. They're at the church before the church even has one person coming in the parking lot. They're watching that parking lot for any suspicious activity. So when this person with mental health shows up, and he shows up once or twice a year, we have people sitting very close to him in case he gets up and does something out of the ordinary. Here's 18 churches since Columbine. Active shooter events at churches. 18 of them since Columbine. Could it happen to the hospital? Thank God not inside the hospital, but just last year, on August 7th, suspect shot a semi-automatic pistol at least 8 times at a man driving in the hospital property, struck the victim's vehicle and the hospital parking structure. So the victim's driving down Hughes, heading for the ER, which is right there. Suspect standing right there waiting for that vehicle because he knew what vehicle he was waiting for. As soon as he saw it, he opened fire. It hit the vehicle and this parking structure. If you're up on that parking structure, your brain is going to say, hey, what is that? I'm going to go check it out. Is that smart? No. That parking structure is made out of brick, cement, concrete, whatever. That's good cover. When you hear pop, 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 don't go look over the edge, because your brain's going to tell you to go check it out. No, you duck. Take cover. Remember this? Jeep. 2005, an auto worker wired a shotgun to his body and burst into the Jeep assembly plant, killing a supervisor and wounding 2 other employees before killing himself. You don't remember that in 2005? Total chaos. Total chaos. When the police got there, everybody's running all over the place. We don't even know who the shooter is. It was just chaos. When we did finally find the shooter, he was already dead. He was dead for 25 minutes. He had a shotgun wired to his body. The wires he was using as a sling. So when we did find him, what did we think?
And he was
Wired
for
explosives.
explosives.
Yeah. So we had to treat it as, okay, now we have a potential explosive here too. Okay. Why didn't that make the statistics? Yeah. There was not 3 or more people killed, murdered. Was it an active shooter event?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. FBI statistics, 80% of active shooter incidents occur in the workplace. 80%. So I do this presentation for businesses, companies, all over. So we try to get them to recognize these indicators for violence in the workplace. Verbal threats to other employees, displaying paranoia, fascination with violence, bizarre behaviors, being unreasonable, irresponsible actions, vindictive nature, chronic depression, substance, alcohol abuse, changes in performance. These are what we're asking people to pay attention to. Trust the uh-oh feeling that you have. You know when somebody's not right. They were good employees, they took care of themselves, they did, and all of a sudden they're coming in. They're missing work. They're not doing a good job. They're displaying some of those indicators that we just talked about. Are we going to ignore that? Because if you do, it can cost you your life someday, or your fellow employees. Trust that feeling. You need to report it. So the science of how people behave in high stress events, I'm going to kind of get in your brains. And try to get you to understand some of the things that you're going to go through, and you may have already gone through some of these things in your lifetime. So you're going to go through 3 stages of a disaster response. First, you're going to go through denial. Then you're going to go through deliberation. Then you're going to get to that decisive moment. How long should this take? These 2. It better be fast. It better be fast. Because if it isn't, it will cost you your life and other people's lives. You need to get that decisive moment quick. So contrary to the common perception of people panicking and stampeding during a disaster, it is more common for people to deny that a disaster was happening. It is so true. 9/11, people that were closer to the impact, they waited longer to start their evacuation than people that were farther away. Doesn't make sense. So what were they doing? Speaking of the others, big explosion. You need to go to your coworker and say, hey, what was that? So your first reaction is like, hey, we need to start moving. We need to get out of here. And do you need to gather your belongings? Do you need to take your stuff with you? No, leave it. Leave it. You don't need it. All right? This is material stuff. You don't need that stuff. Your life is much more important. So when people did start to evacuate, they did not panic or stampede. They moved purposefully to the fire exits in an orderly fashion. They did a study on this. This is, again, another true statement. Ever hear of normalcy bias? This picture explains it all. That's normalcy bias. You've got your head in the sand. All right? And because of normalcy bias, people tend to underestimate both the likelihood of a disaster and the possible effects of that disaster. Kind of like that. That's something smart. Probably be famous on YouTube. Probably die. You won't ever get to see it. Somebody else will post it for you. So it takes time for the brain to process that novel information and recognize that a disaster is a threatening situation. Remember this? Nightclub fire, Rhode Island. Great White, I think, was the band. Remember the normalcy bias? People not panicking, stampeding, moving purposefully to the... Watch some of this video. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. It gets disturbing. You can watch it on YouTube, the whole video. It's pretty graphic. Normalcy bias. This is already on fire. There's a door right here. Look at that. This thing is already on fire. So that goes on for about 12 minutes. Again, you can watch that on YouTube. This is the same bar. Those are the windows. That's that door I pointed out. Main entrance, main bar door, kitchen door. You don't work there, you might not know what's there. But when you go to this bar, are you going to look around and see where the exits are? Absolutely. No matter where you go, you should be looking for exits. What do you think those numbers are?
How many people died in those areas?
Yes, that's the main entrance right here. 31 people recovered, their bodies recovered at that main door.
Was it due to the fire and smoke, or was it due to the trampling of the other people?
It's both. What you will see if you watch the whole video is you'll see a stack of people this time trying to get out. Okay? So what does that mean for everybody behind them?
They can't go.
They can't get out.
Get out.
So what's going to get you first? The smoke.
The smoke then.
And then you're just going to drop. Okay? Could these windows be an option to get out?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Windows are a great option. Do you even know how to break a window? Do you know how windows are made? Windows are made to give a little bit. So if you throw something directly in the middle of that window, there's a good chance it's going to bounce right back at you. The corners. The corners of the windows, that's where you aim to break.
Did anybody die in that area by the windows? I didn't notice.
A few. Like 18 of them.
We're in that.
And then there was 7 on the outside. I'm going to guess they came out. And just
Somebody carried them out, or
yeah. Yeah. Know your surroundings. Know your surroundings. Our brain has a series of alarm systems that activate to prepare us to deal with that threat. At this point, people in the disaster have to decide what to do. So now we're in the deliberation. We are past the denial. Hello?
Hi, Chuck.
Come on
Come on
in.
in.
Come on in.
I interrupted you.
Nope, you're not. So now we're past denial, we're in deliberation. We have to decide what we're going to do in the disaster. So in the case of a loud noise, that startle reflex starts the process of getting us ready to act. So if I was to scream really loud here, what are you going to do?
Jump.
You're going to get startled, right? Or you hear a pop or a big boom. You're going to jump and you're going to be, okay, I need to do something now. Did you ever hear of OODA? The OODA phase? A shooter has to go through this process also. He's got to observe, he's got to orient, he's got to decide, and he's got to act, right? So if the shooter comes into the room, how do we interfere with that so we can take an advantage?
Distract.
Throw it the face.
What if that was a can of soup? A rock? Hockey puck? Some hockey teams have donated hockey pucks to the schools. So when we have a shooter breach your barricade, all the schools, I hope, by now, have buckets. Each teacher in each room. Where their bucket has cans of soup in it, rocks in it. So when that shooter breaches their barricade, that's what they're doing. So if I'm coming in to shoot people and you're throwing cans at me, I'm going to do just like you did, right? That's when you have to take advantage of that. Okay? You need to take advantage of it. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about interfering with that OODA phase. You ever hear of the lizard brain and the human brain? This is actually quite fascinating. When I first saw this, I'm like, okay, they're trying to be cute. But no, it's very interesting. So it's the lizard brain. Corresponds to the older, more primitive brain structure, your emotional brain. This controls breathing, balance, walking, feeding, and defense. There's no need to think when the lizard brain is controlling something, it just happens. Whereas the human brain corresponds to the more modern brain structure, rational brain. This is the part of the brain where now you can say, okay, I need to think about what I can do, what I need to do. So when we're conscious about what is occurring with the human brain, the big advantage of this system is that it is flexible. Any football fans here?
No.
The quarterback drops back into the pocket, throw the pass. How long does he have to throw that ball?
4 seconds.
3. If he has a good offensive line, 4 seconds. Probably about 3.
5 just the Cowboys.
Yeah. But if you think about it too long, what's going to happen?
You're going to get fat.
You're going to get hammered. So you don't have the luxury to think about what you need to do. You better already have a plan. And it better happen quick. Making decisions under duress. Stress increases the heart rate, right? Common sense. This can have adverse effects on our ability to make appropriate decisions in a life-threatening situation. Kind of break it down in different conditions. White, 60 beats per minute, normal resting heart rate. And as your heart rate goes up, you start to lose some of these things like the fine motor skills. And what am I talking about? Putting a key in a keyhole. You're stressed. You're scared. What's going to happen? You're going to shake. It is so hard. You put the key in a keyhole. Or load a revolver. Can you imagine that? Try to protect your home and some burglar busts into your house and your bullets are separate from your gun because you want to be safe. That's scary. As your heart rate continues to go up, your complex motor skills start to go. And what are we talking about? Person might face a situation where they're confronted with multiple suspects and innocent victims. Who would that be? Like police. You know, we respond to an active shooter event. We may have multiple suspects, but we definitely probably have multiple victims. Okay? Stress. Can you imagine the stress that the police officers go through when they have to rush into a place? And guess what? We learn from all these active shooter events. We take away and we learn and we change the way we do things. Because the bad person is also changing things. They're watching these things and they're changing up their plans too. They're now hitting fire alarms and getting you to go outside.
Yeah.
So then when you hear pop, 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 now you've got to change your plan and head back in, right? So you're using your senses. Don't get caught up in thinking, no, this is just a fire alarm and you're outside and even though you're hearing pop, 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 you're just like, oh, it's still a fire alarm. No, you need to change it up. I can go to the shooting range under no stress whatsoever and do pretty good. Put me in an active shooter event as a police officer, my accuracy drops to 20 to 30% as a police officer. 20 to 30%. The shooter, 50%. Why are they a better shot than I am?
Because
And I practice.
They're not in the stressful situation.
They don't care. They don't care about innocent victims, right? They're killing as many people as they can. They don't care. I think the only thing they're worried about is, okay, no, my clock is ticking and the police are out of the way. And I'm sure a lot of them, they don't want to die. There's a good chance that they're going to. It could be their last day too. You may also experience several common sensory side effects of high stress levels that many police officers report experiencing during deadly force encounters. Tunnel vision. Has anybody ever experienced this? This is very common. Get into stress. It doesn't take much stress to experience this. Hearing. You'll lose your hearing, trust me. We do scenarios. After I go through this whole presentation, for some places we do scenarios. And I could be screaming to them that the shooter's in the gymnasium. And the gymnasium's all the way on the other side of the building. And they're still heading for under the table because they don't hear a word I'm saying. Because they really get into it. People really get into these scenarios. And I can watch their stress levels go up. Even when we're just doing it for practice. Can you imagine the real deal? The kind of stress that you will go through. You will not hear. What about slow motion? Anybody ever wreck a car? Did it go in slow motion? Yeah. I rolled a truck on 280 once. And all I could think about is, when's this going to stop? Am I going to get hurt? And I'm seeing stuff floating inside the cab. Thank God I wore my seatbelt because it saved my life. But everything was moving in slow motion. What about out-of-body experiences? Some people have reported this in these high-stress events. It was like I was looking down on myself. That's what they're reporting. And of course, I was so scared that I wet my pants. This is common. So as stress mounts, the ability to think rationally decreases. This is our human brain shutting down and our lizard brain taking the lead. As stress mounts. Real quick example, when I first started doing these presentations, people would say, hey, just hook up to our stuff. And I go, sure, no problem. And I hooked my computer up to there, and it wouldn't work. And my lizard brain is telling me, let's just shut it down, reschedule, we'll come back another day. No, you've got to work through it. You've got to use the human brain and think, okay, I can make this work. Make it work. You've got to override that lizard brain because your lizard brain is going to want you to shut down and do nothing. So at high levels of stress, people can only do which is pre-programmed. For many people, this is fighting, freezing, or fleeing. You've heard that before, haven't you? Yeah. Kind of like that. Who's going to win that fight? Oh, it's froze. Yeah.
Really?
Freezing is almost the wrong response, at least in the feeling of helplessness. When people feel helpless, their stress levels increase, which further hinders functioning. So this guy comes in to kill you. Is that what you're going to do? Do you have a chance at all?
No, not that way.
You do not have a chance doing that. What do you see there that can give you a chance?
Turn the table on the side.
Remember interfering with the Buddha face? What are we going to do?
Throw.
You're going to start throwing everything and anything, including that table if you have to. Your shoes, and you'll probably have a cell phone, throw that too. And what else are we going to do?
Scream.
Scream as long as you can. And you may have to attack, right? Because if you just do all that and stop and he's still able to move, what's going to happen if you stop? there's a good chance that you're going to get hurt or killed, okay? So you can't stop. You've got to fight to the end. Taking action, any action can help give that sense of control and help reduce stress response. You've got to act. You've got to do something. One of my favorite quotes, President Theodore Roosevelt. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. The worst thing you can do is what? Nothing. Do you hear what I'm saying? So how do you keep the human brain functioning longer? We all have that, right? We all have willpower. You may have to use it. Dig deep. In the case of violent encounter, your brain is setting off a variety of panic alarms, and by exerting willpower, you try to override those alarms. And you need to breathe. You need to breathe. Take those deep breaths. And it helps. I'm sure we've all had to use that before. Somebody's making you so mad, you've got to take those deep breaths, get yourself back under control, and do what you need to do. You need to take care of yourself. Eating right, sleeping right. Kind of like my Roxanne here. She sleeps all the time, no stress whatsoever.
English Bulldog?
Yes,
Yeah.
she is great.
Yeah.
And you have to practice. Practice. You think these teachers, they watch this PowerPoint, you think that's all they have to do? You've got to practice. You've got to practice those critical skills. Ever hear of this? Develop a script? Okay. Here's a picture. It's a proven fact that if that picture in his just sitting there visually seeing himself throw a strike every single time, it's a proven fact that improves his game. Any kind of sport. Your coaches should have taught you this. Basketball, just visually standing there or sitting, like basketball, free throws. Making it every time. Improves your game. So when you're sitting somewhere at your work, visually practice. So when the human brain is compromised, no matter how much willpower you have, how good a shape you're in, or how much you have planned or prepared, you will run into a situation where your lizard brain overwhelms your human brain, at least for a short time. How do we prepare for this? Shift your motion. What do I mean by that? Remember that guy? How did he become the Hulk? He got mad. He got mad. Did he get scared and crawl under a table? No, he got mad. And he took care of business, right? You may have to reach down deep, get angry, and survive. So the faster you can get through the denial and deliberation, the quicker you can get to that decisive moment. And again, this is going to be quick. Fast. It's got to be. So failure to act quickly can result in you remaining in a position to be injured or killed during that future event. Failure to act quickly. Do you hear me saying it over and over and over? I'm reprogramming your brains. This is what you need to do. Any rules in fighting?
No.
Any rules in survival?
No kick, no stretch.
You do. Got it. Chairs, coffee pots, fire extinguishers. What else can you use with fire? What else can you do with that? Spray them. Interrupt that Buddha phase. Hit them with it. You're going to survive, right? You're going to survive. Know your surroundings. Does everybody know this school? You know the cafeteria, right? Pretty well. You know the hall that goes down there. Now you know this room. Where you work, wherever you go, especially where you work, know it like it's your own home. Okay. Obviously, there's going to be places that you just can't just get to know. I like to explore. You go somewhere like that bar, walk around. See where the exits are, see where the windows are, see where everything is that might help you survive a terrible, terrible incident. Because at bars, we've had shootings, right? They're on that list. There's a lot of them on that list. One in Florida, I think, 50 people or more were killed in that one. Shooting. I show this because we don't know who that would be. We really don't. In this room, we don't know who that's going to be. If you're ever involved in an active shooter event, I have no clue. Until that happens. Then we'll know afterwards. Dr. Lieberskew, Virginia Tech, professor, Holocaust survivor. He knew what gunfire sounded like. As soon as he heard that gunfire, he had his students jumping out a second-story window. He barricaded the door so those kids could get out a window. He died saving those kids. The other classrooms, they went into what we call traditional lockdown. Traditional lockdown used to be shut the door, turn off the lights, and huddle up on the wall. That's all they knew. That's all they did. They did it over and over and over. You have options. Use your options. Victoria, school teacher, Sandy Hook. Let her kids go in a closet. She saved them. She died saving her kids. Because a teacher, those are her kids. Jesse, 6 years old. 6-year-old hero. When the gunman at Sandy Hook started to reload, he was smart enough to tell his fellow students to get out of the classroom. He didn't make it. He was shot and killed. 6-year-old hero. Recently, tackled the gunman, gave his own life to save others. Anthony, if you get shot, does that mean you're going to die? No. Anthony was shot 5 times. He's still alive today. Another hero. Play soccer, love soccer, still play soccer. Las Vegas. I show you this because there was hundreds of heroes that day. Hundreds of heroes. 58 people were killed, 546 people injured. Out of those 546 people, most of them were shot. And I show this because would you know what to do when the shooting stops? Could you save somebody's life? Do you know how to stop the bleeding? Do you know how to do that? Direct pressure, tourniquets. Do you know how to do that? First aid kits is very important. Do you know what's in the first aid kits? Especially where you work. Have you ever gone into your first aid kit and looked in there? Is there a trauma kit in your first aid kit? When you open that up, what are you looking at? I've opened up a lot of these at different businesses. You open it up and everything looks the same. So you go to reach. Do you even know what you're looking for? Especially if it looks the same. How many people are running late for work and your keys are right in front of you and you can't even find them? Right? You need to know what's in there and you need to be able to grab it immediately. Because somebody could be dying, bleeding out. You need to know how to help them. And under that kind of stress, what you've just been through.
Are they making those now different so they are ready for in case there's an active shooter? Like,
well, whenever I bring it up in different places and they're not prepared, they do get prepared. Because we just need to let them know. If you don't have the proper stuff, then you better get it. You need to have it. You can't acid. Pain relief, ibuprofen. I don't see any trauma stuff.
Morphine.
You're changing. We even had the 19th floor of the government building. I just did this for them last week. They have a first aid pack. It's really interesting because they didn't even know where they were. They all said, well, they're over here, and they weren't where they thought they were. So when we did get it, it was some really thick plastic. And when you first look at it, and you've never looked at it before, you're thinking, how am I gonna open this? I need scissors or a knife or something. Because it was so thick, you wouldn't be able to rip it with your teeth. And it was really simple. It had a hole where it hung on something, like a hook. And you're looking at it that way because that's the right way up. You're like, how do I open this? But if you just flip it over, it had that little notch in it where you can just tear it. Nobody knew that. I didn't even know it when I was looking at it. I'm thinking, how do we open this thing? And once you get into it, it's so packed in there tight. You're trying to pull everything out. Under stress, you're be panicking and freaking out. And you're like, oh my gosh. But it had everything you needed in that kit. They just needed to put it where everybody knew where it was and how to open it. So that's how important it is. We're not going to show you this video. It's a video about how to stop the bleeding. We just don't have time for that. Okay? This is all on the internet. Okay? You can watch all this on the internet. I'm going to show you this video. This video here is kind of a Walmart type setting, and have we had shootings at Walmart?
Yes.
Yeah. Recently too. Yeah. It's not Walmart, by the way. It's just kind of looks like it, but it's not.
Battery 90%.
There's a gunman inside the store. We need help now.
Everything last weekend? Thank you very much, wasn't it?
I have about it. Is the new system enhancement? What's going to be the solution by the time we...
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. I actually think he's got an old, well, he's got a truck. I don't know if your daughter would be interested.
We need help. There's a gunman inside the store. He's shooting the place up. We need help now.
Issues that we found. Okay, Emily, see what that is. See what's going on. There's a man with a gun. What's the word?
There you go. You're safe for that.
This guy with the gun is shooting. Look.
James, what do I do?
No, look.
Oh. Run! 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 To the right! To the right! To the loading dock! Come on, this way! This way! This way! Oh no, come here! Yeah, in here! In here! The gunman's coming.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
I can't do this.
You're gonna see your daughter tonight, okay? We are all going to go home tonight. All right? We have a right to defend ourselves. Get the gun! Get the gun! Hold him down, hold him down!
You're okay.
Yes, yeah, we're all gonna go home. Everybody's going home. Yeah.
If you ever have the misfortune to be in an active shooter event, you deserve to survive. In our research, we have found that the actions that potential victims take during these events are critical to their survival. We have identified 3 options that have proven effective in many events. These are: avoid the attacker, deny the attacker access to your area, defend yourself. It is a personal decision, but you have a right to do so. Avoiding the attacker starts with being aware of your surroundings at all times and knowing what is going on around you. If you see or hear something that looks suspicious, take action. For example, the stalker took immediate and effective action to protect himself when he observed the shooter pulling out weapons from the bag. Others, however, hesitated, and this hesitation can cost them valuable time that they could have used to get away from the threat. If you hear something that is, or could be, gunfire, start trying to get away from it as soon as possible. Gunfire has a distinctive sound. Inside of buildings, the sound can be muffled or distorted. A single loud bang could be a person dropping something, or even thunder. But repeated loud bangs are much more likely to be gunfire. Additionally, look at the reaction of others. Are they startled or scared? Are they running? What are they saying? Any one of these events individually may create denial, but when put together, should create a heightened awareness and stimulate an immediate response. It is important that you know how to get out. The situation will be chaotic and rapidly changing. In general, you will want to go to the nearest exit. But you must also understand that the closest exit may not be accessible or safe to use. If this is the case, go to a different exit. While avoiding the threat, consider the uses of cover and concealment. Cover offers protection from gunfire, while concealment minimizes your exposure to the attacker. Try to keep objects between you and the attacker. If you can't avoid the attacker, sometimes the best option will be to deny the attacker access to your location. In many locations, this can be accomplished by closing and locking a door, such as they did in the meeting room. Locking the door has proven effective in many attacks. If the door does not have a lock, you can place heavy objects in front of it. Remember, barricades work best if the door opens toward you. If it doesn't, use things that are readily available, such as straps, belts, or objects that can be used to block or secure the door to make it difficult for the attacker to enter the room. This may at least slow the attacker down and give you time to identify alternate means of escape, such as adjoining rooms or windows. When attempting to deny access to your location, you want to make it appear that there is no one in your area. Lock doors, turn off the lights, silence your phones, and get out of sight. Your attempt to deny the attacker access to your location might fail.
The gunman's coming.
What are we going to do?
We're going to have to defend ourselves.
Have a backup plan about what you will do. In many cases, this may be to defend yourself. You need to be in a place where you can act if the attacker comes into your location. In most rooms, you will line up against the same wall that the door is on, near the door so you can react, but not directly in front of it. If you are unable to avoid or deny, your best option may be to defend yourself by using whatever is available. In a situation where someone is attempting to kill you, you have the legal right to defend yourself. Attack weak spots such as eyes, throat, and groin. Fight to the best of your ability and do not quit until the attacker is stopped.
Get the gun!
This is what the workers in the warehouse did when they were unable to avoid the attacker and felt their lives were in immediate danger. Whatever option you choose, call 911 as soon as you are in a safe location. Provide any information that you know. The operator will ask you a lot of questions. If you don't know the answer, don't guess. Just say you don't know and only state the facts.
I'm not sure. There's 3 of us in the room. We're on this.
Who's got the gun? Shoot him!
This will be a complex situation, and we can't tell you what you should do in every case. What we can do is provide you with information about the options that we have found to be most effective for surviving these attacks. The ultimate choice is yours. What you do matters. Oh.
Get the concept?
Yeah.
All right. Police arrive, or are you going to have anything in your hands?
No.
No, do not have anything in your hands. If you disarm the gunman, are you going to hold the gunman at gunpoint
No.
until the police get there? Because what's going to happen when we get there under that kind of stress? And we know who the shooter is. If you hold that gun and we see you, we're probably going to shoot you. All right? Do not have any guns in your hands. Do not have anything in your hands, because this pointer be construed as a gun.
Yes.
Very easily. Can a cell phone? Yes. That's why we always say, hands up and wide open, and listen to everything that we have to say, and do what we ask you to do, because we don't know who the shooter is. Okay? This is just stuff I go over with companies. Come up with a plan and practice. Show this, because what would motivate you to survive? This is my family. This is what motivates me. Okay? Questions? Anything?
You know, there was on the news this morning about the coach, I forget what state it was in, where a young man, a teenager came in, and he was having some mental health problems.
I saw that.
He was going to take his life, but he had this long gun, and the coach just happened to be there when he walked in.
Yep.
And was able to disarm him, and then another staff person came up after him, and he hugged the boy.
Yep.
The boy was distressed, but that could have went a lot differently.
It could
Going to
have.
what you were saying about thinking that.
It could have turned really, really bad. If that coach wasn't there, it probably would have. There would have probably been a lot of victims, and I'd have to change my presentation, because I change it up every time we have one of these incidents. Yes.
In that scenario, and if there's an issue that begs for a solution in our time, this is certainly I'm a gun owner, but I tell my fellow gun owners, this isn't liberty and freedom that we're living in nowadays, where guns are so abused. But in that scenario, the initial guy, when he came on the shooter taken out of the back, he had a chance to tackle him right there.
See, that's what it's what I love about this video, because take 100 people in a room. How many do you think are going to do exactly what that kid did? A lot of them. A lot of them.
A chance.
Some of them, your first thought is to pounce. A lot of them, their first thought is to run. The same thing. Remember the normalcy bias? Remember the normalcy bias? Hey, Emily, go see what that is. Yeah. We all know what that was. We know what that was. And do we need? How about the kids? Saying there's a gunman, a gun with a gun. Do I need to look down the aisle and say, "Yup"? No. If somebody tells me there's a guy with a gun coming, we better start moving away. Not looking down there and verifying. But this is human nature. We do silly things.
Yeah.
It's like you hear the gunfire, like I was talking about Toledo Hospital. pop, pop, pop. And you're going to be like, hey, what is going on down there? And you could take a bullet. Just because your curiosity gets the best of you. Yeah, don't do that stuff. Survive. Bottom line, survive and do what you have to do to survive. Okay? I thank everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Officer TVLO. I'm going to have this video on ToledoDNO.com. Any questions, you can send to me or the DNO email, and I'll give them to him, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you all for coming.
Wow.